Chapter 13. The Stripper. Priscilla Sue Gailey knew her audience. They were mostly businessmen who would slip into Joanna's 1819 Club on M Street in the heart of downtown Washington to ogle the strippers. Gailey sometimes began her act dressed as a secretary, with a briefcase and glasses. In the dark of Joanna's, the customers could anonymously watch Priscilla Sue take it all off. The strippers knew how to feed the fantasies of the patrons. They all pictured their secretaries coming into the office that way, Gailey said. A couple of the men told me that. But mostly it's ego-building. We come and sit and talk to them, hug them. Maybe this is the only place they can get away from their wives. They often come to watch and talk to a particular girl. One day in the fall of 1990, a tall man sent a waitress over to her with a $10 tip. He had also asked the waitress to relay a compliment. It was something like he had never expected to find such grace and beauty in a strip club. Gailey ran after the man as he was leaving and caught him at the door to thank him. More for his words than the money. A couple of weeks later, Robert Hansen was back. This time he gave her his business card with the embossed gold seal of the FBI. Perhaps, she said, since Hansen was an FBI agent, he could do her a favor. I asked him to find my father. He said he'd try. He wrote down the name of my father, Jerry Roberts. He got my mother pregnant in the church parking lot, and my grandfather ran him off with a shotgun in Marion, Indiana. Then 32, she had last seen her father when she was 8, Gailey said. He came to the house only once and played the piano with me, and he looked at me and said, "She's mine." Then he was gone. Hansen never found Gailey's father, but at their next meeting he had a surprise for her. He gave her a sapphire and diamond necklace. To Gailey, it was as though a fairy tale had come true. Guys who came to strip clubs did not give the dancers jewelry worth thousands of dollars, at least not without wanting sex in return. But she insisted Hansen never did. This was a very unusual man, Gailey realized, something far outside her usual experience. She had married briefly at 16, acquiring the name Gailey, dropped out of high school, and moved to Columbus, Ohio, where she began stripping. There, she won the title of Stripper of the Year in the Old Burlesque Theater in Columbus. In 1980, with another stripper, she moved to Boston and danced at the Golden Banana under the stage name of Tracy Starr. 4 years later, she came to Washington. At Joanna's, I could make $200, $300, $400 a night. One night, $800 on tips. The $800 on one night was with a whole bunch of Oriental men. I think they were Japanese. I lit my nipples on fire and they were pushing all this money at me. It's a stripper's trick. You turn away from the audience. First you have to split the matches, wet them, then put them on your nipples, and light the matches, and in the dark it looks like your nipples are on fire. "Oh," the Japanese said, "Ooh, oh," and all of them were pushing $100 bills at me. I'm still laughing about it. Although Gailey never completed high school, she was intelligent, interested in art, in life, and intellectually curious. She also had a sense of humor. Stripping isn't bad, she said, once you get over the being naked part. In his relationship with the stripper, Hansen appeared to be living a James Bond fantasy combined with Professor Henry Higgins in My Fair Lady. In the musical, based on the play Pygmalion by George Bernard Shaw, Higgins, a professor of acoustics, bets he can teach a Cockney flower girl to pass for a duchess. Hansen was playing Professor Higgins to Gailey's Eliza Doolittle. In the Greek legend, Pygmalion fell in love with the statue of a beautiful woman he had sculpted. The goddess Aphrodite brought her to life. Hansen took Gailey to art galleries, although he insisted on those expeditions she not wear her high white spiked heels. They took long walks together, she said. We walked to the National Gallery, to the Hirshhorn. He did offer to take me to the National Archives, but I was more interested in art than history. I like the old masters. Leonardo especially. And he tried to improve her spiritual life, continually urging her to go to church. Although she passed a church every day on her way to Joanna's, I felt it was hypocritical for me to go to church and then go to the club and take my clothes off. In April 1991, Hansen told Gailey he was going on a trip to Hong Kong. To her amazement, he asked if she would like to go with him. She said she could not afford the trip, but Hansen asked her to walk with him to a travel office. There, he picked up his airline reservation and handed her a round-trip ticket to Hong Kong. On an official FBI inspection trip, Hansen was not supposed to bring a woman friend, of course. They flew to Hong Kong on separate flights and stayed at the same hotel in separate rooms for 2 weeks. They had breakfast together every morning and dinner at night. Once they took the ferry to Kowloon, and Hansen showed her around the streets and shopping malls. She was baffled by what Hansen wanted. "I never met any man who didn't deep down want to screw me," she said matter-of-factly. I had to find out. She had wondered, she said, if he was repressed because of his family and church. She had to know if he really wanted sex. So in Hong Kong, Gailey made her move. "I had a lot of souvenirs and needed a bigger suitcase to get them home," she said. "I asked him to come to my room to see the souvenirs and see how big a suitcase I would need. He came to my room. I was very drunk," she recalled. She had begun with oral sex, she said, but she insisted Hansen did not consent to intercourse. He did not want it. I never dreamed that he wouldn't. Hansen admired James Bond and the movies about the exploits of Agent 007. But he may also have fantasized that he was Humphrey Bogart, living a real-life romantic role in Casablanca. Whenever they were in a piano bar together, Gailey added, there was one song that Hansen would request. In Hong Kong, she said, he always asked for As Time Goes By. Hansen never took Gailey into FBI headquarters, as far as is known, but he did take her to the Bureau's training academy in Quantico, Virginia, south of Washington. I saw the library, the shooting range, the little town they set up for training agents. He bragged how good a shot he was. In August 1991, at Jaimelitos, a Mexican restaurant in Georgetown, Hansen had some more surprises for her. First, he handed her an envelope. It was an American Express card with my name on it. I never had a credit card. I thought that was wonderful. And then he handed me a pair of keys, and I knew they were nice keys because they had the little leather holders on them, so they had to be for a nice car. And I was like, what are these for? And he says, this is for your new car. It's a Mercedes, a champagne silver Mercedes, and it's being cleaned up. And when we're through eating, we'll go pick it up. And I'm like, you bought me a Mercedes? I couldn't finish eating. I couldn't even eat. I kept asking questions and said, do we have to eat? Can't we just go? Afterwards, they drove out to Alexandria to get the car, a 1985 Mercedes-Benz 190E sedan, for which Hansen had paid the dealer $10,500 in cash. Gailey could not believe it. She drove 50 miles out of her way when she went back to her apartment in Silver Spring, Maryland, just to be in the car. Before Christmas, they had dinner together at a club in Maryland. There was a piano bar, and once again Hansen asked for As Time Goes By. With a romantic melody playing in the background, Hansen surprised Gailey with an unexpected question. He asked, if he wasn't happily married, would I ever be interested in him? I was totally confused. I said, of course I would be. Gailey said her confusion stemmed from the fact that up to that evening, Hansen had always talked about how important his family was. It was obvious his wife and kids were everything to him. But, as matters turned out, it was to be their last dinner together. The decision to go back to Columbus that Christmas turned into a disaster for Gailey. Her life went rapidly downhill. She ran up debts, and her car was wrecked in a collision with a city truck. The Mercedes was smashed, totaled, in March of '92. That's the day my life went really bad. My friends were smoking crack, There was no insurance. The guy who was supposed to pay my insurance on the car said he had smoked it. He spent the money on crack. She pawned the diamond and sapphire necklace for a fraction of their value. When the money ran out, she used the American Express card to buy Easter dresses for her nieces. But Hansen had told her that the credit card, for which he paid the bills, was to be used strictly for expenses for the Mercedes or for emergencies. When he saw the dresses on the credit card statement, he flew to Columbus. There was an awkward encounter, Gailey said. Hansen retrieved the card and left. She became hooked on crack and turned to prostitution to support her habit. She was arrested in 1993, caught in a police sting when a friend she was with sold crack to an undercover cop. Her mother called Hansen on his direct line at the FBI to ask for help, but he refused. Gailey pleaded guilty to avoid a longer sentence and spent a year in the state reformatory for women in Marysville, Ohio. Later, she had a child out of wedlock and fell deeper into her life on the streets of Columbus. Still, Hansen had helped her more than she ever dreamed any man would. He showed me a different way of living, a whole new me. She felt this way even though their relationship had not lasted, and she had failed to better herself, as he seemed to want, but had done just the opposite. Hansen fantasized he was James Bond, Professor Higgins, and Humphrey Bogart, or all three. But he had a much bigger secret than his strange romance with Priscilla Sue Gailey, the stripper who admired Leonardo da Vinci.